breathe underwater.
And the beginnings of this story is going to sound typical, but it's not because it ended really quickly. Wayne and Bobby, they were not really dope boys. They didn't have the knack for that. Being able to stand up on the corner, because now back in the day it's a little different than it is now. You know, back in the day, standing up on the corner, either sitting in a crack house all day, boarded up, they just didn't have the nerve for that. They wanted their money quick so they can get on down. So they started to watch and pay attention to the people that were doing that, and they followed a couple of guys to their stashes and they popped them. You know what I'm saying? They didn't kill them because they were masked up. They didn't have to, but they got the money. Now, Wayne and Bobby, they split all the money, but they got about a 6-figure deal out of it, right out of them 2 licks that they made. So they had money put up. And they had a little dope as well. And they were trying to offload the dope, but they had enough money. Now, Wayne never really wanted to be a criminal. He never wanted to be in the streets. Bobby, on the other hand, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But Wayne, he took his half of his money and he started him a construction business. You know, his family, his uncle and all of them, they were in the construction game. So they taught him everything he needed to know. And back then, you know, it didn't cost 6 figures to get a truck. He was able to get a truck with some help from his family, you know what I'm saying, with some of the money that he had gotten on this caper and still had some money to spare. So his life was going well. You feel what I'm saying? He's into the construction business. He's hauling with this truck. He's making good money. Now, Bobby's still out there. He's still out there. And after a few years, it showed that Bobby wasn't good at the criminal lifestyle either. Now, let me say something to y'all about that, because a lot of people think that, you know, to be a criminal, all you got to do is be willing to break the law. Yeah, that'll get you on the wrong side of the law. You feel what I'm saying? But most people are not good criminals. Most people are not good criminals. If they were, the penitentiary wouldn't be full. You understand what I'm saying? So Bobby was one of those individuals that was always up and down. It was a roller coaster with him, always. He never could seem to get his footing. He'd have a good lick, have the money, he wants to party, trick it off, this, that, and the third, and he'd be back at square one. He'd get him a little dope, he'd sell a little dope for a while, he's doing good, everybody's proud of him, the people in the streets anyway, and then all of a sudden, he's back on the bottom. And he's like a lot of people that's in the dope game. They don't understand that it's a job. It's a job. See, most people in the game, in the streets, they want to spend their time that's doing nothing. Make a lick, make a sale, go spend the money. They ain't really talking about the future. But that's not what Wayne was on. Wayne was trying to build a future for himself. And he had family support. They knew what he had done, but they told him, come on, man, leave that alone. I can show you how to get into this and you can make all the money that you want as long as you're willing to work. So Wayne listened to them and followed their lead. Bobby didn't. So after a couple of years, man, look here. Wayne got 2 or 3 trucks. He's getting his own contracts. He's making money. He ain't done nothing illegal. He's got him a girlfriend. They got a baby on the way. Everything is working out just the way his family told him it would if he was willing to put in the work. So he's committed. Bobby ain't went nowhere. So one day, you know, they still stayed in, excuse me, y'all. I'm still a little sick. They still stayed in touch. So Bobby, he hits him up one day. Say he needs to talk to him. He needs a favor. So he said, yeah, all right, I'll meet you. So they meet in an old spot that they used to meet in, a secluded area. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, but for whatever reason, Bobby, he has a little daughter. He's got his daughter in the car when he shows up to talk to Wayne, right? So when they get to the spot, Bobby's talking to Wayne, you know what I'm saying, about the good old days and what he would like to do and why he can't get ahead. And he's asking Wayne to step out on the limb and help him. And Wayne is telling him, he said, look, it don't work like that. I got obligations. I got payroll to meet. I got people that are dependent on me. I just can't take a chunk of money out and give it to you so you can go do this in the streets. I can't do it like that. Bobby gets upset, pissed off. And for whatever reason, I don't know what he was thinking, he ups the pistol. Now, Wayne, let me explain something to y'all. See, a lot of people believe when you square up, that because you square up, that you don't have those same instincts, that you're still not a person that will get about it if you have to get about it. And Wayne was that dude. He wasn't on that no more, but his instincts were still sharp. He hadn't heard from Bobby in that way, in that, when Bobby hit him up, he had this urgency in his voice. And he hadn't heard Bobby talk like that, so he felt something's not right with this. Let me make sure I'm going to be safe when I go out here. This is a friend of mine, so I'm going to go, but let me protect myself. So he goes. Now, keep in mind when he saw, Bobby's daughter in the car, he had never seen her before. He had heard about her. But when he saw the little girl in the car, his guard did go down. He didn't think he would need the gun. But when Bobby upped on him, he knew that it was a trick. He knew it was a trick. So when Bobby upped the thing on him, Wayne upped on him. And both of them fired a shot at the same time. Pow! Bobby's missed. Wayne's hit. I'm talking about dead center. Dropped him. Dropped him like a sack of potatoes. When I say like a sack of potatoes, I mean like a sack of potatoes. Now the little daughter in the car, she's in the baby seat. She's in the baby seat and she's just looking. She's old enough, you know what I'm saying? But she's just looking. 2, 3 years old. She's just looking though. And that moment is burned into her brain. She starts to holler, crying for her daddy. She sees him laying down on the ground. She's trying to get out of the seat. For whatever reason, Wayne decides to call the police. Sounds like the right thing to do, right? Calls the police. He tells them what happened. They come over. They get to the house. I mean, not the house, but they get to the spot. And he tells them the whole story. Now, they take his statements. They call Bobby's family, tell them, and then they take the child to the police department where the mother picks up the child, finds out what happened to Bobby. They go on. Now, the police are trying to decide what, if anything, to charge Wayne with. Because they have him in jail. Now, he does not have any felonies, but he also doesn't have a license for this weapon. So they can get him for having a weapon without a license, but he's not a convicted felon, you see. Never been to jail, never been caught doing nothing. As far as they knew, his name wasn't even on the radar for nothing. So he's explaining to them, he left out conveniently the story about how he was able to amass his company and do all the things that he has going on now. But he just thought he was going to be meeting a friend to do a favor, but he felt something was off. So that's why he had the gun. So he ended up getting a ticket for the gun. But there was this DA. He just kept looking at the case. He said, just something don't seem right. So now the DA is talking to Bobby's child's mother. They were not married. So she starts to tell him all the war stories that Bobby had told her about him and Wayne. And they had only pulled a couple of licks together. But that gave the DA a picture of who Wayne was, maybe not is now, but who he was. And he was looking at it as if maybe Wayne was still involved in things and they had a disagreement. But at the minimum, he knew Wayne wasn't telling him the whole story. So he called Wayne in, told him to come talk to him, tell him what's going on. And he told him about the new information that he had, and Wayne was reluctant to tell him. He didn't want to tell him. He wasn't going to tell him. So he stuck to his guns. So now the DA, trying to put a little pressure on him, he filed charges. Files charges against him for murder, and they arrest him. Now Wayne, he makes bail. Because he's been doing, when I say good at his company, he's been doing good. Everybody likes him. Got these contracts, making his money. Like I say, got 2 or 3 trucks. Now, he makes bail. And his fiance, she comes to get him, and he tells her everything is going to be fine. And keep in mind, he called the police after this shooting. Okay? He called them. So now, the DA is trying to put a case together. He really jumped the gun, trying to put a case together. But Wayne was trying to go on with his life. And now all of a sudden, his fortune is just opens up. He's getting bigger contracts, making more money. He's got a fleet of trucks. Now, 2 years have gone by. He got a fleet of trucks now, about 5 or 6 trucks. And he's making money hand over fist. And he's almost legitimately a millionaire. Making big bank. Got employees that depend on him. Got people in the business community speaking highly of him. But this DA won't let go. Will not let go. So he calls Wayne down one more time and he tells him, he said, look, I need you to tell me what's going on so we can clear this up. And I'll go easy on you, but you need to tell me everything that's happening. Now, he's got this big-time lawyer, and the lawyer tells him to say nothing because they have nothing. The case is weak. So he doesn't say anything. And he lets him leave. He's still out on bond now. While he's out on bond, guess what's happening? That little girl that was 2 or 3 years old at the time, now she's 5 or 6. She's growing up. And the DA is not letting go. Ain't no statute of limitations on murder, y'all. So now, the little girl is being talked to by the DA, and she's starting to remember. And she's looking at pictures and all this, and she points to him. Now, keep in mind, he called the police. Said he told them what happened. But now, you got this little girl, and all these years without her father, hearing stories from her mother, her story, whatever it can be, whatever it's going to be, might be a little different than Wayne's. Now, keep in mind, she was only 2 or 3 at the time, so how much different can her story be? Now, you got to remember something. Let me tell you something. I've known people to get the death penalty. I know one person that got the death penalty because one of his nephews uttered the words that Uncle such and such did it. That's all the nephew said. Because that was enough with all the other evidence. You feel me? Death row. So what is it that a 2 or 3-year-old could say that could be the nail in his coffin? Who knows? So now, there's a witness to the murder. He's confessed to doing it, but the narrative that he put on it was that Bobby upped on him, and Bobby missed. Let me tell you something. They know that his gun had been discharged, but they never found the bullet. Convenient, huh? But it's true. They never found the bullet. So the argument can be made from the DA's point of view is that they don't know when that weapon was fired. And that can cast doubt on the story that Wayne gave them that Bobby fired at him first. All right? Getting sticky. Getting sticky. So here we go. Wayne continues to build his company, continue to do the things. He's in the community. He's doing the basketball with the kids, football with the kids. He's doing all of these things. He's a pillar of the community. And everybody knows he has this case pending, though. Everybody knows that things are not as smooth as he says they are. Because you got to keep in mind, the streets remember him, how he got started. But it was never any reason for the streets to talk about it. Now you got people asking questions. Have you ever heard anything about him doing this and doing that? Because now the DA has a little bone, and now he's trying to find some corroboration, trying to build a case. Trying to build a case against him. And that's how that past will come back to haunt you. It'll make you afraid to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth because of how people might see it. So remember that. Remember that. When you're in the streets, clean your past all the way up the right way, or it could cost you. Because now Wayne finna go to trial, and it's another couple of years now. So now she's 8 or 9 years old. She's 8 or 9 years old, and she's been thinking about this her whole life. Why her dad ain't there, listening to her mama say all of these different things about how she looks just like her daddy, you know, and how she wish her daddy was here to raise her. How would that affect her testimony? How do you think it would? The DA's trying to get a conviction. Wayne is trying to go on with his life. But it's a part of the story that's not being told. That if he could tell this story, it might clear some things up. But he's afraid of how it's going to make him look. See, that's how we get caught up. We get afraid of how something small is going to make us look because we get caught up in the reputation and we withhold something that could make all the difference because of the way people might perceive us. And that's the problem we have right here. So Wayne, he holds pat. He ain't got nothing to say. So the DA calls him down there one more time. But this time, he said, I tell you what, I got my case, I'm ready to go. I'll make you a deal. I'll reduce the charges down to manslaughter. I give you 12 years at 30% if you plead guilty. Wayne says, I'm not pleading guilty. He tried to shoot me. Even though that's the truth. Even though that's the truth, he knows that any information, and his lawyer didn't want him to add that information. His lawyer kept telling him, no, we don't want to talk about none of that. You were friends with him. If you go out there and you tell this man that y'all did something in the past and he was calling in a favor and all it casts a doubt on your story now. You're in too deep. Bad advice, in my opinion. Bad advice. Because now it's locked him into taking a chance with the jury. Now, you know the DA is going to bring in witnesses to talk about this caper that was done. He going to bring them in. And guess what? He going to bring in the people that was robbed way back in the day. Because you remember I told you, they didn't kill them. They had masks on. So they really don't know who robbed them. But they got an idea because the streets talk. Y'all know how the streets talk. The streets say a whole lot more than the courtroom if you really want to know. That's how they make the cases in the courtroom from what they hear in the streets. Hello. So remember that when you say you're about this life. Now, what happens to Wayne? What happens to Wayne? I'll let you know tomorrow. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.
I've been trying to breathe underwater.